Well, the Diamondbacks gave up an inside the park home run. Just when you thought things couldn't get more embarrassing, that happens. We're talking about the Diamondbacks losing here to the Giants. And of course, we'll have so much more, including Jesse Friedman joining us from Chase Field. Don't go in. I hate that goddamn song anyway, so I don't care where we started at or if it's correct. Welcome in to another edition of the Arizona Diamondbacks podcast right here on PHNX. My name is Derek Montilla, occasionally known as your mayor of this joint. This man next to me is the people's producer, but no more. I'm taking away the people's producer. It's just the people's champion, the one
That's
and only Damon Farrell. Well, I mean, you're here, buddy, next to me for the remainder of the regular season. No matter how bad things get. And,
don't say the P word.
Yeah, no, I did it. I did it. I promised I wouldn't, and I did it anyway. Anyway, welcome in, you guys. Thank you guys so much for joining us right here on the PHNX D-Backs podcast, brought to you by our friends at Bet365. Of course, go check out the Bet365 app. Download the app right now. Use that code of PHNX365 when you sign up. Choose your offer and find out why it is never ordinary at Bet365. And you know what's not ordinary, Damon? An inside the park home run. That's not ordinary, but that happened tonight at Chase Field. Initial reactions to the Diamondbacks losing to the Giants here in this game, 6-3. Just what's in your heart right now, sir?
I mean, I'm just like every Diamondbacks fan, I'm sure, and that's worried that this team is, not going to make the postseason at this point. I think we're 1.5 up now on the Braves, I believe, after tonight. Dropped down to that third wild card spot, which, to be fair, a lot of us have talked about potentially wanting to get that third wild card spot over that second wild card spot. But what comes along with that is obviously the downside of you're cutting it a little bit close to whether or not you're going to even make the playoffs or not. So, just worried, really.
Yeah, worry is the exact response I was looking for. And everyone should be worried with the way this team is playing and the way things are going. I don't care that the Diamondbacks still have, the fact that the Mets and the Braves play each other. I don't care about that. Anything could happen right now. And at this point, the Diamondbacks could be the team on the outside looking in here very shortly if they continue to play like they did today. They lose 6-3. Their record stands at 87-70 right now, as far as the race for 91 wins. If you want to consider 91 to be the goal, to be the way that the Diamondbacks can secure their spot in the postseason, they now have to go 4-1 in their last 5 games, with 3 of those games being against the San Diego Padres.
Yeah, and I think the scarier part is, like, I know you mentioned it already, but obviously the Mets and the Braves are going to play each other here. It doesn't matter if those teams like split games and the Diamondbacks just continue to play awful baseball. That's right. If that happens,
they still have a chance to win.
Yeah, for sure. So, well, that's definitely a huge advantage for the Diamondbacks. Like, you can't go into this the final stretch of this season just being like, oh, it's fine. Well, because the Braves and Mets someone has to lose those games. Like, we got to figure out how we're going to play better baseball. And on top of that, like, more than just from a standpoint of making the playoffs, but also from a standpoint of doing well in the playoffs, because the way that this team is currently performing is not anywhere close to what you would want out of a team in terms of peaking at the right time in the season.
No. And of course, the starters cannot go deep for this team. That happened again tonight. Credit to the bullpen for only allowing 1 run. Credit to of all people, Scott McGough for going out there and once again being sexy Scott McGough. This was a much sexier Scott McGough than we've seen as of late. He went out there. He looked great. Maybe he was asked to do too much. Maybe that was another flaw in Torey's game plan. I know one question a lot of people had was, where is Ketel Marte? Right? No Ketel Marte. We know that Gabby Moreno is temporarily sidelined, but it sounds like for the most part, we've avoided him suffering a major, maybe re-aggravation of that injury that he already aggravated. But no Ketel Marte. And we do actually have video from pregame from Torey explaining why Ketel was out of the lineup today. Here's what Torey had to say about that.
Marte has been going out there with just blood and guts and given everything that he possibly can. The left leg, it probably wasn't 100% when he came back. If you guys studied the swings enough, you could recognize that he was protecting that space. It's getting much better. He feels very good, and he's gaining confidence on that left leg. The lower back is a chronic thing that he battles. So I've been in that red zone with Marte over the past couple of days. I felt there was some urgency to that last series. Every game is really, really important, but I just probably went a little bit too far with him, and I needed to give him a day off today.
Now, I know that we react differently to that. Obviously, fans, people on the outside looking in, consider that to be kind of weird. I mean, Ketel Marte, at least for Ketel, right? It sounds like he was having some soreness with that ankle, and that's the reason why he did not start today. He did pinch hit in the 8th inning, and he struck out. But like Lourdes Gurriel Jr., for instance, having the day off and then pinch hitting late. Again, another guy that missed time due to injury, and I'm not sure if Lourdes needs days off. However, when we say that, we only say that based on them playing in baseball games, right? So we consider them to be off and not playing to be like days off, when in fact they're actually doing a lot of work on those days, which is the reason why sometimes when it comes around like this, as ridiculous as it sounds, they really do need a day off. However, that time has come and gone, Damon. That time for the time for days off are over. We have 6 games left in the regular season, and I understand you want to rest these guys for the postseason, but there might not be a postseason. There might not be a playoff for this team. So I don't know if resting guys now is going to make a lot of sense to a lot of people.
Yeah, I mean, I think everyone's first reaction when they saw the lineup today, right, is where the hell is Ketel? And no rhyme intended. And
that was a great rhyme. Put it on a shirt, yeah, Damon. Put it on a shirt.
That's just kind of what I do, but it's no big deal. Yeah, I mean, I think it was concerning, right? And then immediately everyone's mind goes to the ankle. Is he okay? And then next thought is Garrett Stubbs belongs in a jail cell. But I honestly, it sucks. I thought we were kind of past this. I thought they brought him back. No, after the little IL stint, assuming that he was finally going to be healthy, and clearly he's not, according to Torey. So down this final stretch, yeah, it's pretty concerning that he's not fully healthy, and we're going to need Ketel Marte because he's our best player by a lot. And it's just it's sad the place we find ourselves in right now when we need to be, like I mentioned earlier, peaking at this moment. Right now, it's oh no, Ketel's actually not 100% and he's hurt, and Lourdes can't play every game, and it's well, and Gabby's out. We finally felt like we were getting back, and then it just keeps feels like we keep getting more and more things to set us back.
What sucks is that this feels a lot like the beginning of the season. This feels back like a lot of the things going wrong for this team feel, right now at least, blowing big leads, having guys injured, not being able to really mount a comeback when you were down by 2 runs or more. Some of these things truly do feel like the early season struggles. And maybe that's the case. Maybe the Diamondbacks really did just peak a little too early, and now they're coming back down to earth at the worst possible time. I don't know the answer right now. What I do know is that the Diamondbacks have some really timely injuries that popped up. And I do think that there's something to Gabriel Moreno not being out there for this pitching staff. You know, you got Eduardo Rodriguez, who absolutely shoved his last outing. This time he could not give the Diamondbacks another quality start. He really cruised through his first 2 innings, relied on his four-seam fastball a lot, but his defense behind him wasn't great. We could talk about Jake versus the wall, but Jake fought the wall and the wall won. You know, that's the way that worked out for him. He misplayed a ball hit by Matt Chapman that resulted in an inside the park home run that may have been more embarrassing than blowing the 8-0 lead yesterday. I don't know which is more embarrassing.
No.
That one was pretty bad. No, it wasn't. But it was a shame that it happened to Jake twice. Jake had 2 attempted snags at the wall, both on Matt Chapman balls, both that he kind of misplayed. Like, he made spectacular attempts, but he just didn't, like, they almost didn't need to be as spectacular as he made them. One resulted in an inside the park home run, and one resulted in an RBI triple. Not a great day for Jake in center field.
I've made my thoughts on this known for a while, Derek. You watch a lot of baseball with me while we sit on these recliners here at PHNX HQ, and I just don't think Jake is that great of a fielder at all. I don't. He has the tools to be. He's incredibly athletic, probably the most athletic dude on the team. He's super fast. He just doesn't. I don't know. He doesn't communicate well. He doesn't make like the most spectacular of plays like you might expect from a guy with his athleticism. I think him and Corbin to an extent as well are both guys that I look at that I'm like, I feel like they should be giving you a little bit more defensively than they are. And yeah, I mean, it's just tonight, another example. I mean, at least that second one, based off what I saw, he should have caught that. His glove was just in the wrong spot. Like he timed the jump properly. Yeah. He read it well. His jump on the wall was good, and then his glove was here and the ball was here, and it's just like I don't know what to say about that.
Yeah, I don't either. I mean, I've seen Jake make some outstanding plays out there. I disagree with some of the comments in the chat about him not being a good center fielder. He just wasn't a good center fielder tonight. But we've seen Jake make some plays in center field that I have very little doubt someone else could play as well. Maybe this guy that I'm wearing his shirt right now, Alec Thomas, we know that he plays an incredible center field as well.
Alec Thomas 100% makes that second play. There's no question about that.
Yeah, for sure. But Eduardo Rodriguez, man, tonight just relied a little bit too much on that four seam. He got 13 whiffs total, got 8 strikeouts, which isn't bad, but like I said, his defense behind him wasn't great, and he didn't give the Diamondbacks much length. 4 2/3 innings pitch, 7 hits allowed, 5 earned runs, 3 walks, 8K. I guess, does this answer the question for you about who the D-backs should turn to in a game 3 of a wild card series? Should they make the postseason, and should that situation arise?
I mean, I think so, right? What would you say? I didn't watch tonight and think to myself, oh, I'm really confident in Eduardo Rodriguez. Maybe like you mentioned earlier, it's a Gabby thing. Yeah, but that raises another point of how many times is this team not going to have Gabby in its lineup? Is this just going to be an issue every single year, compounded on top of each other? Because we almost missed the playoffs last year because Gabby missed an extended period of time. And now this year, Gabby misses an extended period of time, and then he gets hurt again. It's like that. I know we can't catch a break, but also like at a certain point, like I hate to be this guy, but like we can't keep having him missing like this. It's a huge detriment to the team.
Sean says Herrera framed pretty well tonight. I agree with that, but obviously there's far more, attributes, I guess you could say, that go into catching, right? And there's something about the way Gabby calls a game, and communication, and just other things. I mean, I don't know. I'm not putting all of this on Gabby because Erod, once again, we've seen this out of Erod. It's very much like the outings that we see out of Jordan Montgomery, right? It's not super impressive. There's not a lot. You're not seeing a lot out of his velo on his fastball that make you think that this guy is a dominant pitcher of any kind.
It's average.
He was locating well tonight. He located well, but of course, you make mistakes, and then that the stuff isn't really good enough for you to overcome making those mistakes. And again, he didn't make a lot of them, but he did make enough to put this team in a hole. And obviously, the Diamondbacks, the bullpen did a decent job of, like I said, of holding the lead. Scott McGough, I'll say it, he looked great at times. He sat down 5 in a row. He had a 1-2-3 6th inning. I just think maybe Torrey asked too much of him. He gave up 2 hits, 1 earned run. Brandon Hughes, very good as well. 1 inning pitch, struck out 1, walked 1. And then Blake Walston, also a big inning there in the 9th. He had a pretty impressive strikeout of Matt Chapman to end the 9th inning that at least gave you some encouragement, there. At least the bullpen was able to not let this lead get worse and gave the Diamondbacks an opportunity at a comeback. But the offense wasn't able to do that, and the offense wasn't able to do much tonight. They once again did their disappearing act of being able to score in the first inning. You got back-to-back doubles by Perdomo and Jock Peterson that gave them that lead early on. They now have 122 first inning runs. If you want some good news, that leads Major League Baseball, and they are the first team to boast a first inning average of 324 or higher since the 2000 Cardinals did it. And right now they are just one of 9 teams, Damon, since 1979 to have a first inning average of 320 or higher. All of those other teams went to the playoffs. What's wild is the Diamondbacks pitching might just be bad enough that it's keeps them from the postseason.
Dude, it's so. Have you looked at like the MLB standings with like the runs for and the runs against? It is stark. The runs against. I mean, it like runs for obviously most runs in the National League like that. There's something to be said about that. It's awesome, good for us. But when you look at the playoff teams and the teams that are good that have aspirations and the runs against, I mean, it's not even remotely close. Like the Diamondbacks have by far the most runs against them in the National League among competitive baseball teams.
I like to see Kyle Cooper's head in the right place. He says, this is all Zach Moss's fault.
Honestly,
I'm guessing right. Kyle lost his fantasy football game. I'm guessing
words right out of my mouth. So yeah. Kyle and Kevin and I were watching the Monday Night Football games over here, and we were both playing against Zach Moss, and he scored a meaningless touchdown at the end of a game to finish with 20 points.
I just want to say that while he did have a meaningless touchdown, that did win me a game in a different league by 1 point exactly.
This is true.
So the highs and lows of the sport were on full display here at PHNX HQ.
Kevin won because of it, and I lost because of it. It was pretty brutal. But yeah, Zach Moss, you're a scumbag.
Wow. All right. Freddie Fender says, Derek, shave, and the D-backs win. Like my whole face? We're bringing back playoff stashes.
Yeah, Freddie, this is the thing, is we want to talk about peaking at the right time. Derek and I are trying to peak with our mustache game at the right time so that we can bring those powers to the table once the postseason starts. And we can't do that. We'll do it again right now. I mean, you could ask us to do that if you really think, if you're desperate enough where you think we need the magic.
No. Remember earlier this goddamn year, we thought that was going to do it, and it absolutely destroyed this team? No, I'm not pissing off the baseball gods. I will not be shaving this into a playoff stash until it's the playoffs. And if we don't make the playoffs, you don't get a stash. You get no stash. I won't shave the beard at all. I'll just grow it out and look like an unhomed person, I guess. I don't know.
Here's my promise to you, chat. I will still shave my and go playoff stash, even if we somehow miss out. And I will then paint my body the color of whatever team the Dodgers are playing, and that is going to be that's my new team. I've been a fan of that team my entire life. I don't know what team it is, but I love them.
Clip it, and hold it forever. Well, I know you're going to like this one because the offense didn't play well tonight, but one guy did, and that's our guy, Jerry P. He was out there doing it alone, and he is our king snake for tonight's game. Geraldo Perdomo was 2 for 4 with an RBI and a walk, got on base 3 times, tried his best, couldn't do it alone.
Yeah, I mean I always love a good Geraldo Perdomo King Snake game, Derek. Like that's one of my favorite. You know that. You know me. You know that's one of my favorite things.
I know.
But
I almost gave it to Sexy Scott McGuff. That's where we're at. That's where we're at. With 5 games to go in the season, I almost gave it to Sexy Scott McGuff.
Yeah, usually I feel like, and correct me if I'm wrong, but I feel like Perdomo King Snake games almost always come in W's. Like I don't really envision them happening in L's all that much. So it's sad that we waste a Perdomo King Snake game on that. But to be fair, he's also partly King Snake because who else are we supposed to give it to? Everyone else didn't perform to a level that would have earned anything close to that kind of honor.
Tanner said no one deserves King Snake, and I think Tanner might be onto something. I mean, really, I felt like in this one, no one deserved it.
Herrera, I guess. Herrera was decent.
Right? And I mean, again, I can't fault him considering, the ups and downs, and I mean the pressure. Right? Who was going to play catcher if anything happened to Jose Herrera? He needed to be protected at all costs tonight. I don't know. I don't know what happens to this offense. Again, offense is impressive early on. Then they did not get another hit, Damon, until the 7th inning.
That's what they do, right?
Christian Walker had an RBI double in the 3rd inning that scored Corbin Carroll. And then they did not get another hit until Jose Herrera's double in the 7th inning. That's amazing. And again, they make pitchers like Birdsong tonight look like, elite, best of the best, pitchers in the league. I don't understand what happens to it, to the offense, especially considering, like you said, this is the team that generates the most offense, right? And I know a lot of times it comes in bunches. I know a lot of times they have games where they just score a ton of runs, and that's how their total has become what it has become. But like, again, against a Giants team that really doesn't have much left to play for, I would think that we would see, and I hate to be on the same page as Thunderbolt, but more fire out of this team. You know what I mean? More fire out of, just more fight to not lose this ball game. There was just a lot of peculiar things going on. We didn't really see Randall Grichuk make an appearance in this one. I don't feel like they tried to do everything that they could have done to win this ball game.
Yeah, no Randall Grichuk. Instead, we get Josh Bell, which I thought was insane, swinging at one of the worst pitches I've ever seen someone swing at. And then obviously Torrey decides to not go with his better bullpen guys, which is fine because they weren't the reason that we lost tonight. That wasn't didn't turn out to be a super costly mistake, but yeah, it didn't feel like the Diamondbacks were pulling out all the stops to win this game. And I think that it's really going to come down to these next two, because like you mentioned, the Giants are not playing for anything right now. They're done. So obviously you would expect the Diamondbacks, who are playing for everything, to show a little bit more fight than a team like the Giants. And the Padres are going to be playing hard baseball in the final series of this season. So these next 2 games are incredibly crucial, Derek. Like, you almost have to win them, I think, because the Padres are a playoff team that are honestly maybe the scariest team in the National League, and you're going to get their best game. So
he's here right now.
Fernando,
right now.
I hope we don't see you in the playoff, the wild card. I hope we see the Brewers.
No, I don't want you. We don't want that smoke. You just wait for the Mets, and you can take on the power of Grimace. I'd love to see what comes out on top there, but I don't, not interested.
Who in the chat is currently debating Padres versus Dodgers? Is that a debate for D-backs fans? I would rather I'm rooting for the Padres 1000%. I've been a lifelong Padres fan.
I hope both teams lose. I don't know.
Dude. I'm sorry. Like, I don't like the Padres, but my hatred for the Dodgers is far beyond the reach of any hatred I have for any other team. It's not even close.
I don't know. And I think Tanner also makes another good point here. Tanner, you're full of them tonight. He says, will Padres have anything to play for, though? That could be true. The Padres could secure their position not only in the playoffs, but as the top wildcard seed. Dodgers win the NL West. They really don't have anything to play for. So maybe maybe they sit some guys, maybe they rest some guys. That would be very helpful for the Arizona Diamondbacks at this point. Anything would be, considering the way they played tonight against this Giants team. So we appreciate you guys so much for being here in the PHNX Sports YouTube channel. Of course, if you haven't subscribed to the channel yet, make sure to do so right now. Sign up for notifications. That way you don't miss whenever we go live. We do some emergency podcasts around here, and we might be doing some more this week. So make sure to sign up for those notifications. Of course, hit that like button. That's for my self-esteem, for Damon's self-esteem. Kevin can use it. Anybody that faced Zach Moss tonight could use that self-esteem. So hit that like button. Of course, if you are listening on the audio podcasting side, make sure you subscribe on your favorite audio podcasting app. Leave us a review. We appreciate that feedback. Of course, those 5-star reviews mean the world to us. When we come back on the other side, we will talk here about more from this game, even though I don't want to. And of course, we'll have Jesse joining us here shortly from Chase Field. But first, got to let you know, I am here in my home right now. I could use some new flooring, so I'm going to talk to the folks at Empire Today. You should also check out Empire Today if you are thinking about upgrading your flooring, doing any upgrades to your home in general. Of course, now is a great time to do it before the holidays come around, right? They'll be here before we know it. Halloween stuff is already being taken down off the shelves, folks, and Christmas stuff is being put up, and that means holiday guests will be in your home soon enough. So you can get the flooring taken care of with Empire Today and their easy, quick, and convenient service. You get someone in your home that day and eliminate the back and forth to a store. You also have Empire Today's virtual floor designer, which is a great way to see how any new flooring will look in any space in your home. All you got to do is snap a picture and instantly see how the new floors will look in your space. We've all seen programs like this, but of course, Empire Today's virtual floor designer will not only show you what those floors look like, but of course, their curated product selection will allow you to look exactly at what you're looking for and not have to look through thousands of samples and find the perfect flooring. So Empire Today also services their own home warranties. So make sure, of course, if an issue arises, all you have to do is call Empire Today. They will service the warranty themselves. You won't have to track down a manufacturer's phone number, and that can be a headache in itself. So schedule a free in-home estimate today. All listeners can receive a $350 discount when you use promo code PHNX. Restrictions apply. See empiretoday.com/PHNX for details. Also, of course, check out Gila River Resorts and Casinos, because no one does it better. You can visit any one of their 4 locations here in the Valley to experience the best that they have to offer. And of course, when I say the best they have to offer, I'm talking about staycations, I'm talking about nights out with your friends. And of course, I'm talking about just maybe some alone time by the pool for you. Get yourself a frosty beverage. We thought that the temperatures were cooling down, but they're heating back up. We're going to break records next week. It's going to be 110 degrees. So why not go spend some time, more time out by the pool? Get yourself a frosty beverage and relax. You can also check out their 4,500 slots and live table games. You can also check out all the action they have to offer at all of their sports books. So of course, head to Gila River Resorts and Casinos and let them show you what the next level is all about. And of course, you can also join us. We will be hosting events there all year long, including Cards and Sons watch parties and so much more. So make sure to stay tuned for info on how to come hang out with us. But of course, you do you at Gila River Resorts and Casinos. Visit playathila.com for more details. All right. Well, let's take a look at the count from this game, even though I don't want to, even though no one wants to, presented by Desert Financial Credit Union. Those are fine folks. They do great things with numbers, but these numbers, not so hot. Diamondbacks lose by a score of 6-3. Giants out hit the Diamondbacks 9-7. They were 2 for 7 with runners in scoring position to the Diamondbacks 3 for 10. Giants had 6 extra base hits. A lot of those were home runs. The Diamondbacks did not have those home runs, and that made the difference in this game. 6 extra base hits for the Giants to the Diamondbacks, 4 extra base hits. And then the expected batting average was 271 for the Giants to the Diamondbacks 259. And yeah, the Diamondbacks really just couldn't get anything going. It was actually kind of frustrating to hear them on the broadcast say that the ball is really flying out of here tonight. And it was like, not for the D-backs, it's not. But yeah, Matt Chapman.
Yeah. I think, I mean, I've heard some people in our chat before say that we're a little bit too home run dependent as a team, the Diamondbacks. Like, if they're not hitting home runs, they're not typically winning baseball games.
They're not winning baseball games. It's true.
But I think that, to be fair, isn't that kind of true of a lot of baseball teams in current modern day baseball?
It wasn't true of the Diamondbacks last year. It wasn't what the DNA of this team was last year.
No. But the Diamondbacks last year were an anomaly. They played a completely different brand and style of baseball than I think you conventionally see these days. That's what made people fall in love with that team. Don't get me wrong. But this team is a little bit more of, it's over the fence or it's feast or famine. You know what I mean? So I think that style can work in the playoffs if you're playing good baseball. But when you're not playing good baseball, you look really, really bad. And that's kind of what we saw tonight.
It's the pitching. When you look at the Diamondbacks relief pitching ERA, it's one of the worst in baseball. Starting pitching ERA, one of the worst in baseball. I mean, realistically, when you say the Diamondbacks need the, home run to overcome, or to win, they needed to overcome, the amount of runs allowed by their pitching staff. We had some great outings recently, some very encouraging outings. And it was from guys we were hoping to see those outings from, including Erod striking out 11 in his last outing, Brandon Pfaadt striking out 12 in his last outing. But again, these have been the outliers. These have not been the norm for this team. The norm for this team has been that the starting pitching hasn't been very good and doesn't go very deep in games outside of guys named Brian Nelson, it feels like. And of course, he's another guy that they have lost recently due to injuries. Injuries have had a huge impact on this team this year. And it's not just the injuries, it's the layoffs. You know what I mean? It's the layoffs due to injury and how hard it is to return from those layoffs.
Yeah, no, the injuries have been a huge killer of this team this season. And that's not to say that the Diamondbacks are the only team that have had injuries, but it's been constant. It never has really felt like there was a time where they finally were getting back fully healthy until recently, right? And then it hasn't really come together all that well. Like the best baseball that they were playing was in that stretch of July where they were missing tons of pieces. And there were guys like Josh Bell and Kevin Newman that were stepping up left and right. And then now when we're needing those kind of performances out of those guys in these crucial games down the stretch, I mean, Josh Bell, Pavin Smith, Kevin Newman, they haven't been getting it done recently. And that's
they're not getting regular playing time like they used to. And I think that's factor.
I mean, you're right. You're totally right. It's that definitely plays an impact. But the fact of the matter is that, we got 0 for 7 from Pavin and Kevin Newman tonight. And that's when they do get their spot starts, they have to be better than that. They have to.
Well, and the problem was that you had guys that were playing regularly that were contributing, like Josh Bell and Kevin Newman. And then when Ketel Marte and Christian Walker came back, they just weren't what they were when they left due to those injuries. And arguably, Josh Bell might have even been better at times offensively than Christian Walker even was for stretches this year. We know Christian Walker has had his struggles at the plate, as have so many guys on this team. It's just, you kind of, over the stretch between July, August, and September, you had guys that would contribute consistently. You had, obviously, Corbin Carroll and Gino being such big contributors, in July. That's when those guys came back online. In August, you had a lot of contributions from those new additions to the team and guys that just stepped up and played due to injury or played due to opportunity or whatever the case may be. But I don't know. This right now, this feels like, once again, they're playing in a way where they're nervous, that it feels like, they're not loose out there. It feels like they have their back up against the wall and they're not responding well to that pressure right now. They didn't respond well last year either. We know how the end of their season wrapped up. We know how they did not win their way into the playoffs last year. I feel like there are some people that think that that's fine that they do that again this year. And it is, right? It is if they make it into the playoffs. I just feel like right now the team, we all kind of expected the Braves to fade away with all of the injuries that they experienced. And this team just hung in here this whole time and has just been an absolute problem for the Diamondbacks and the Mets in regards to clinching that wild card spot, right? But right now the Diamondbacks have a chance to, win these final 2 games against the Giants and put that pressure back on those teams trying to make their way in. That's what they got to do. They got to finish strong here against the Giants.
No doubt. Like I mentioned earlier, those two these two final games against the Giants are so crucial based off of what the Padres potentially could be playing for in the division somehow at the end of the year, which a lot of people in the chat reminded us of. But what's crazy to me looking at these standings right now is just it's so much better of a record this season than last season. But it for some reason it doesn't necessarily like feel like it. I think maybe because of our expectations. What would you say?
No, it's just that record doesn't matter. It's a matter of making it into the postseason, right?
Yeah.
And I think a lot of people would be satisfied with the Diamondbacks making it into the postseason and not having the same run that they had last year, but making it into the postseason in consecutive seasons means a lot. I think it's interesting what it means for baseball as a whole. I think when you look at MLB and the fact that you don't have any 100-win teams and that you have so many teams, still in it this late with 5-6 games left to go, that shows how, that shows the parity. It shows how close these teams all are in how competitive Major League Baseball is right now, which is a great thing for the sport. It's just a shame that a team like the Diamondbacks that have played so well, for the past 3 months are now kind of letting everything slip away. And honestly, I believe they still have a winning record so far in the month of September. So despite the fact that it feels like they've let this whole thing slip away, I mean, they're still there. They're still up in the race and they still haven't fallen out of it yet. So I guess as much as tonight's game makes all of us want to panic, make all of us want to worry, they still have the spot, and there's still tomorrow. There's still the final 2 games of the series. And then they get a day off before playing the Padres. I guess there's one thing positive to this week is that the remaining teams have to play 6 games straight. Whereas the Diamondbacks just have 2 more against the Giants. Then they get a day off before taking on the Padres. But also they're not very good after days off. So there's that. Anyway.
Well, and they're all home games, right? And that hypothetically should help.
It should, hypothetically. But I don't know. People need to come out and support this team. That's why I said.
But also,
we need the support.
100% people need to come out and support this team. I plan on going to the Saturday game, which obviously, like, I work this job. I don't get the chance to go to a ton of Diamondbacks games, but I'm going to go out there and try to support them on Saturday.
Damon doesn't really get to leave the building. That's kind of.
I live here.
He just has a cot over in Studio A. It's back behind the bookcase, and that's where we let him sleep.
Yeah. Well, all I wanted to say is the vibes, the vibes of this of the whole like Chase Field relocation thing coming at just the absolute worst time possible in terms of we need our fans to show up and show out and root the boys on and get them over this final stretch, but also we might not be here. Like it's ridiculous, Derek, that like the timing of that could not come at a worse time. And I can't believe that the Diamondbacks are like, I can't believe the manner in which they chose of going about this, to be honest with you. It honestly, frankly, makes me sick as a fan of this team.
It was by design. I don't believe for a minute that it wasn't. And I don't really know who went there first. I don't know if it was the Diamondbacks. I don't know if it was Maricopa County, but it very much felt like the timing was by design because there's a lot of eyes on this team right now. And at any other time during the regular season, there would not be that kind of, I mean, they could have waited until the playoffs to start pulling the stadium stuff if they really wanted to peak and get the most eyes on this dispute, this squabble that they're having. It just sucks. And you're absolutely right in regards to how it feels as a fan to have this stuff coming up right now. And again, I mean, it just kind of piles on, especially considering what we've witnessed over the last 2 days. We had some pretty embarrassing things happen to this team in the last 2 days. And then you have the fact that, this looming stadium argument kind of took center stage there for a few days last week. None of it feels great. None of it feels great. But of course, the Diamondbacks can make that all go away. And hopefully they're blocking out the noise. What they need to focus on is these next 5 games and winning as many of them as humanly possible. Excuse me. We got some super chat.
I don't think that it affects the team itself. Like I don't think that, Christian Walker and Ketel Marte are going up to the plate being like, oh, the Maricopa County and the Diamondbacks can't agree to a deal. But I do think there's something to be said for the environment around the ballpark. Like those are just not good vibes to be going into the postseason with when we need all of the good vibes. I want all the good vibes coming our way. Like not thinking about the atrocities that could happen if this team was to leave. You know what I mean?
Yeah. I think for me personally, I would like to believe that the Diamondbacks don't even hear anything about this. The players themselves, I mean. I just have a hard time feeling that or believing that 100% just because they have friends, they have family members, they have spouses. Like they come home and their spouse might bring this up to them, or they might get a text message from a friend of theirs or something like that. So sometimes stuff like this is kind of hard to avoid, especially when people might think that the players know what's going on more than what's being relayed to the public. So they might be like, hey, are you guys moving or something like that? And like, again, it's not really something that's on their radar. I don't think it's anything that bothers them. I just don't know how easy it is for them to completely avoid it and to not even pick it up on their radar. However, there are some guys that don't even know what their own batting average is. So like I can understand how some players work really hard or are really good at blocking everything out, including their own statistics and data, because they feel like it's going to impact them negatively. You know what I mean? Just stuff to think about when you're up there at the plate. But got some super chats. Thank you so much. Be calm, see clearly. Jesse isn't here to blush about these, so we'll throw them up. He says the Mets play the Braves. Interesting. Go D-backs. Thank you for your super chat. Also says we need vintage godly fat with the cheeks. And yes, we do. We need vintage godly fat. Fought. I think fought. I'm pretty sure it's fought. I was just saying it wrong. I don't mind the spelling error. I just don't know where I got fat from, but fought. I think it's because fat cheeks, right? Yeah, those two things go together. But yes, we need Brandon with the cheeks showing up tomorrow because he was very good in his last outing, and we definitely need that version of him again. I think, again, going back to the discussion about Eduardo Rodriguez, obviously the benefit to Erod was that he's a left-hander, so he offers you that different look from Zach Gallen and Merrill Kelly. However, big game Brandon in the playoffs last year was amazing, and I think if we see another good performance out of Brandon Pfaadt tomorrow's game against the Giants, I think that's going to solidify, what the Diamondbacks would potentially do if they face that circumstance in the playoffs, or maybe even what their, postseason rotation is going to look like.
I don't think that it's a discussion in the Diamondbacks clubhouse anymore. I think they know who their 3 are, and they're going to go with Erod as the 4 if they need a 4th guy. I think that it's been decided. They watched Brandon Pfaadt in the postseason last year. They know what he did for this team. They watched him just go out there and just absolutely shove against the Brewers. And I'll tell you who doesn't want to see Brandon Pfaadt is the Milwaukee Brewers. If
you're right about
get
that.
Matched up with the Brewers, I mean they're shaking. How could you not be? That he owns them, does he not? Like, I mean, I know he gave up some runs early in that Brewers game that he pitched last year, but then he really, really rounded out a nice outing. And then I wouldn't be feeling good about it if I was a Brewers fan after what I witnessed on last week. Like, that's the last guy I want to face.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, and I mean, I don't know how the Diamondbacks are going to react to losing, a game that they were up 8-0 next time they see the Brewers, if they get that chance in the postseason. But like to see a little anger, a little fire out of them after that. Of course, speaking of anger and fire, I think I've seen Jesse try to join the show twice now unsuccessfully. I have no idea what's going on with him, but I'm very captivated to see if we get him on the third swing on at the dish here in a moment, though. So hopefully we'll have Jesse joining us here shortly. Excuse me. Of course, we thank you guys so much once again for being here. If you are a diehard, We thank you guys so much for being diehards. If you are not a diehard yet, let me tempt you with a little preview of what me and Damon are going to be bringing you during the postseason, because if that should come around, you'll get all of this stuff. You'll get your diehard membership card. You'll get a free t-shirt or hat of your choosing from the locker. You'll get access to all of our premium written content from Jesse. You get entrance to our Discord lounge where we do so much fun stuff, and of course discounts on all of our events. But speaking of that entrance to the Discord lounge, that also gets you premium diehard content, and that's going to include our upcoming series where David and I are unfiltered and unedited, called D-Backs After Dark. So of course, if you miss the cursing, it's just going to be 10 straight minutes of cursing, 10 to 15 straight minutes of cursing. So I mean,
chat, you want 10 minutes of the dirtiest, nastiest mouths you've ever heard in your entire life? Then make sure you become a diehard, because Derek and Damon are going to give you that every postseason game.
That's
what
we're
get gross.
Yeah. So of course, if you can't be tantalized with that, then I don't know what else is going to get you guys in the door as a diehard. But of course, you do get some wonderful other benefits, but most importantly, you get D-Backs After Dark. So make sure to join us for that. Of course, we will have Jesse joining us here from Chase Field shortly on the other side of our break. But first, let's talk about our friends from Branded Bills. Of course, you can see that wonderful hat there behind Damon hanging up on the wall, that beautiful ASU hat. That comes from our friends at Branded Bills. If
nice.
You want to elevate it's a beautiful hat, Damon. It's a beautiful hat.
Derek, you know for a fact I know it's nice because I've told you off air how much I really like that hat. And so
And so I know it makes you sick to have to admit how much you like an ASU item. Yes,
it is nice.
Kevin.
Not to interrupt you, Derek. Sorry to cut off your read, but I wanted to hop in. The Branded Bills U of A hat that I own, by far the most comfortable hat I've ever owned. And I'm not just saying that because they sponsor us. It's insanely comfy. You would not even believe it.
The material is great. It's stretchy. Even the snapbacks have that little bit of stretch to them. Look, all clothing items should have stretch to them. That's just the way that life should work now. We've discovered this technology. We've implemented it into jeans. We can put it into everything now. So, of course, get yourself a hat that does that. If you're looking for your gear for whatever you do for a living, maybe your company, if you want your brand to stand apart from the crowd, you can go to Branded Bills, and of course have their team has you covered with the best custom headwear. You can start your order, and their dedicated team will help you create the exact custom apparel you need, just like some of our beautiful PHNX hats that we might be having coming here soon from Branded Bills. So of course they are a local company from right here in Mesa, Arizona. Check them out. Head to brandedbills.com and use that code of PHNX for 20% off your first order. And speaking of saving you some money, we got 5 home games left for the Arizona Diamondbacks, and a great way to go check out those games is by getting your tickets from Game Time. Now, not only, Game Time already saves you 60% off by buying tickets last minute for baseball games, but you also have to check out their new feature called Game Time Picks that makes getting your tickets for your favorite live events even easier. It filters out the fluff to show you only incredible deals on great seats, so you don't have to waste your time searching through all of those other tickets. And let me tell you, you could search all you want, but when you hit that Game Time Picks button, it's going to be the best ticket. It's going to be the best deal. It's going to be probably closer to the action than you were even looking to get. So make sure to check that out. Make sure to check out all of the wonderful options that they have in their Game Time app, including getting a panoramic view from your seat before you buy, so you can see exactly what your view is going to look like. And as well as you get the lowest price guarantee, or Game Time will credit you 110% of the difference. So take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code PHNX for $20 off your first purchase. Terms do apply. Again, create an account and redeem code PHNX for $20 off. Download Game Time today. What time is it?
Game time, Derek. So no joke, I had a buddy hit me up this week and say, "Hey Damon, what's the best place to buy tickets for sporting events?" And I said, "Pal, do I have the app for you?"
You asked the right person, my friend.
You did.
You really did.
Why don't you go ahead and just toss promo code PHNX in there while you're at it? Get yourself free $20 off.
Yeah. It's simple. It's easy. Of course, we got some more information coming from the one, the only, the Thunderstick, Jesse Friedman from Chase Field. Jesse, get in here. Welcome in. This game sucked. We are not happy about what we saw. Defense wasn't great. Jake McCarthy fought the wall a lot and seemed to lose every single time. But I think the thing we're most concerned with here is it's another short outing for starting pitching that didn't go really great. And the offense once again disappeared after, some early runs being scored.
Yeah, I mean, we've talked about it before, right? At a certain point, the Diamondbacks have to win games where they don't score 8 or 9 runs, right? That's something that this team has to figure out how to do. And it's not to say that their pitching hasn't had some good days recently, right? I mean, the Brandon Pfaadt game in Milwaukee, they won that game 5-1. They had a shutout win recently as well. So there have been good pitching performances every now and then, but not the level of consistency that you really need from a pitching staff that you hope can carry you deep into October potentially in a week. So yeah, it's this was a rough one for the Diamondbacks. It was a rough one for Eduardo Rodriguez. The offense certainly struggled. It was an uncharacteristic day for them, but these days are going to happen. And this is where you need a guy like Eduardo Rodriguez to really step up and pitch well. And unfortunately, he was not able to do that.
Well, we do have more from Eduardo Rodriguez on his takeaways from this game. Here's what Erod had to say after the game.
I mean, they made mistakes. I feel like the homers was just more pitches that I missed middle of the plate. So something that it's always happen. When you miss the plate, you pay for it, no matter who you play. So that's what happened today.
Given so many strikeouts over the last couple of starts, do you feel like you're kind of like in mid-season form by this point now?
I mean, like I say, what matters was winning the game. So no matter how many strikeouts I get, I take just no strikeouts and go out there and give 7 innings. So that's what is more important right now. So that strikeouts, I know I give 5 runs, and that's what we end up losing the game. So that's what really matters for me right now.
It felt like obviously things kind of, really fell apart for him there in the 3rd inning after the first 2 innings went so well for him, Jesse. I mean, it did seem like he was locating well. It felt like he was cruising like he did in his last outing. And then, I mean, especially once Jake misplayed that ball and the inside the park home run happened, it looked like he was a different pitcher at that point. And I know obviously it's hard to keep your composure after something like that happens, but it did feel like, even though he got some strikeouts after that, he still threw the ball well. It felt like the whole demeanor of this team kind of dropped after that.
It was a kind of a demoralizing moment for sure. This is a ballpark where you do see the occasional inside the park home run. Centerfield is obviously, not exactly set up for the defense's success. But yeah, it wasn't, I don't think you can really fault Jake there. Like, that's a really hard play to make. You could maybe, I haven't taken a close look at it. You could maybe fault Pavin Smith or Corbin Carroll for not backing it up properly. Maybe there's a way to hold Chapman to a triple at the very least, if those guys are well positioned to field that ball afterward. Pavin wound up having to go quite a long way in order to run that ball down. But yeah, that is sort of where it felt like the momentum of this game changed. I know the Giants had already tied the game at that point. But yeah, an inside the park home run is not an easy thing to bounce back from. Apparently, at least that's what it felt like. But yeah, I mean, I think with Eduardo Rodriguez, you heard him talk there, his takeaways from this game: don't make mistakes, right? And that is, certainly an understandable takeaway, but at the same time, like, no pitcher is going to be perfect, right? You are going to miss your spots every now and then. And I think the concern with Erod at this point is that it feels like he has to be really perfect in order for things to go his way. And he was excellent his last time out against the Rockies. He was not perfect, but pretty close to it, I think, at Coors Field. But this is, the Giants, I think, have a better offense than the Rockies do. The Rockies are specifically vulnerable to four-seam fastballs, and the Giants are less so. And so we didn't see the same volume of whiffs on that four-seamer that we saw in Colorado. So yeah, you just continue to, hope for better things for Erod moving forward. But I thought he made some mistakes in this game, but you're going to make some mistakes for sure. And as of the way things have gone recently, those mistakes have, often gone over the fence or been extra base hits or whatnot. It's made this, these first couple months for him a really rough go.
I think what you said when you joined us, though, or a little while ago, was the biggest point. Is like, we talk about how good this Diamondbacks offense is, but we also, Damon and I just spoke a moment ago about how bad the pitching's been, right? So it does feel like the Diamondbacks can't win a baseball game if they don't hit a home run, which they didn't do tonight. And it's starting to feel like they can't win a baseball game if they don't score 6 runs or more.
Yeah, that is pretty accurate. I don't know. Am I allowed to do numbers don't lie? Because that's a pretty.
Oh, you know what?
Segue.
You are allowed on a night like this. You can do numbers don't lie whenever. Damon will lie to you and tell you can't do it, but he's a liar, and you know that. But of course, the numbers, they never lie. What do you got here for tonight's number that doesn't lie, Jesse?
Yeah, tonight's number. Maybe this is cheating. This is actually a date. It is 8/24. It is August 24th. That is the last day that the Diamondbacks won a game in which they scored fewer than 5 runs. They beat the Boston Red Sox that day 4-1. And granted, this is maybe a little bit unfair because the Diamondbacks haven't scored fewer than 5 runs in many games. So the sample size here is kind of small. But still, it's been nearly a calendar month since the Diamondbacks have managed to win a game where they did not have 5 runs or more. And again, it's kind of what I was saying earlier. You need your pitching staff to dominate a little bit more consistently, or if not dominate, you need to be able to kind of hang in these games where you only score 3 runs. It's going to happen every now and then, even for what has been the best offense in baseball. And we obviously saw how that turned out today.
Well, it's going to happen in the playoffs, Jesse. Like that's what playoff baseball is. It's not going to be Diamondbacks versus Marlins up 8 runs in the first inning. Like, it's going to be dogfight games where it's a 1-run, 2-run baseball game, low scoring. Like that's how this works.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. I mean, the pitching staffs that you're going to be facing in the postseason, if the Diamondbacks are able to get there, are obviously going to be really good. And I could still see this offense having some days where they put up 9 or 10 runs. But if you're going to make a deep run in October, you're not going to score 9 or 10 runs every time. And you are going to need to just flat out outpitch the other team from time to time. And this was a big start for Eduardo Rodriguez. I think that's the other part of this. I wasn't really thinking of him as a postseason starter for this team before his last outing in Colorado. Correct. And then he went out and looked so dominant. And then it was like, all right, maybe this guy is actually your game 3 starter or whatever. And then after today, it's like, all right, well, there's still the one really good outing against the Rockies, but are you putting a guy in as your game 3 starter just kind of based on that outing alone? I'm not sure if that's necessarily the case.
And we still have to see how Brandon Pfaadt pitches tomorrow. And I don't think they're in that place where they are still deciding on who's going to be that starter in a number 3, or game 3.
They might be.
They need it, but they might be.
They might be. I don't know. I mean, I think they have Zach Gallen and Merrill Kelly penciled in, and or maybe penned in. I don't know if they have anyone else even penciled in beyond that at this point.
You know what this is like? Honestly, this is like Ryan Nelson and Jordan Montgomery staying in the starting rotation. But I think all of the data, like your soul says Eduardo Rodriguez, just because he's a lefty and he's the big starting pitching addition that you made at the beginning of the season, makes all the sense that he would be the third, starter in a series like that. But you don't know what you're going to get out of him. And Brandon Pfaadt has really stepped up in postseason games, and we saw it last year. And he had a great outing his last start. So again, I think that tomorrow is pretty crucial for this team. I think it's crucial for Brandon Pfaadt. I think they need to go out there and they just need to win. And I know these last 5 games aren't, every game isn't a must win, but it feels like it, right? Like they need to go 4-1.
We're getting pretty close,
right? 4-1 to get to 91 wins, right? And we determined that 91 kind of is the safe number that you can reach on your own that will control your destiny and allow you to know that you made it in on your own without the help of another team having to lose. But it's kind of wild right now.
Yeah.
Jesse, barring Brandon Pfaadt getting absolutely shelled tomorrow, or even like an Erod like performance tonight, you don't think that he's penciled in as the third starter? Because I do.
Yeah, I think that's probably fair. I think Fott probably had just based on how good he was his last time. I mean, maybe going into that start in Milwaukee, maybe he wasn't penciled in, but
True.
after being as dominant as he was in that game, it does kind of feel like, I mean, I guess if he really, really had a bad day, then maybe you'd reconsider. But I think that's fair. I think Fott is probably penciled into at least some spot in the postseason rotation. But again, as some people are saying in the chat, like, you got to get there first. And the Diamondbacks they're still in good position. Like, their playoff odds are still above 50%. I haven't seen exactly what Fangraphs has them at. But yeah, you said it, Derek. Like, 91 wins gets you in for sure. If you go 3-2 the rest of the way and you finish with 90 wins, that still puts you in a pretty good spot. The Braves would have to go 5-1 or better in order to oust the Diamondbacks if they were to finish 3-2. But once you get into 2-3 territory or 1-4 territory, I think at 2-3, it's maybe a 50-50 shot on paper, and anything less than that, certainly you're not really expecting that to be good enough. So whatever cushion was there, whatever happy feelings there were on Friday when we did that post-game show.
It was called Happy Days. It was called Happy Days, I believe.
It was called Happy Days. And it's crazy how quickly things can change, right?
Yep.
I mean, a little over 24 hours ago, you look like you're talking about a 4-game sweep of the Milwaukee Brewers. I mean, talk about a huge momentum boost, all kinds of comfort in the wild card race going into the last week. And you let that one slip away and you lose today, and suddenly it's not a coin flip, but their chances are not all that much better than that at this point.
Fangraphs has Diamondbacks at 73.7% to make playoffs right now, Jesse.
Okay. I think that's as low as it's been in a long time. I think I've seen 76, 75, I think, in the last week or two. I don't think I've seen it quite that low.
Yeah.
Well, here's what Jake McCarthy had to say after the game on the mindset with these final 5 games to go.
I don't think it's any different than it has been. I think we go out, we don't take any days off, and I feel like we've been playing some good teams over the last couple of months. So I think when you have that mentality every day, you don't have to turn it on for this time of year. So I think that's something that plays to our advantage. But still, we want to win games this time of year. We always want to win games, and we're putting this one behind us, and we're coming back tomorrow trying to win.
And that's the only way they can approach it, right? Like, I think when you talk about that shift where we went from potentially sweeping the Brewers to now losing 2 in a row, right? We as fans feel that dramatic swing, but the players maybe not so much. You know what I mean? Maybe because they're used to baseball and everything like that, they're not in that same panic mode that we are. However, maybe they are, because maybe the reason we saw them today play the way they did is because they can hear those footsteps behind them. They know exactly what's going on, and they know that their back is kind of up against the wall now at this point.
I mean, it reminds me of last season when, again, the Diamondbacks kind of backed their way in. They built a bit of a nice cushion for themselves, and then they wound up losing 4 consecutive games to finish the season, and they got to the playoffs because the Cincinnati Reds were down like 13-0 or something in the 3rd inning on the second to last day of the season. And at that point, you're feeling pretty good about yourself. And that could happen again. I mean, that is also possible. Even if the Diamondbacks don't finish well, if they go say 2-3 the rest of the way, it's still totally possible that they could make the postseason. It's not like they have to win the 4 games in order to get there. But yeah, you'd like to build a little bit of momentum. You'd like to not have to totally flip the switch in the way that the team did last year. Although granted, that worked out pretty well for them. So maybe that's the way to go.
Maybe that's the way to do it. I don't know. We do have an updated wild card race graphic, I believe. If we do, there's where we stand right now. Of course, the Braves, I believe, are 1.5 games back, but whatever.
Yeah.
I mean, none of these games back matter right now, because really it just matters is the D-backs sit there. Of course, one loss worse right now than the Mets. We knew that they were already going to be in the third wildcard spot if they tied with the Mets due to the Mets holding that tiebreaker. Obviously, the Braves also hold that tiebreaker, but I don't, Damon and I touched on it, Jesse. I don't know if the Diamondbacks end up getting the final wildcard spot. I don't know if that's the worst place for them to be, despite the amount of anxiety that's going to cost us for the next, 5 to 6 days.
Yeah, I mean, I've said it all along, right? I think the Brewers are on paper. Of course, you could beat any team and any team could beat you. It's a 3-game series. Who the heck knows? But on paper, I think you want the Brewers in the first round. At least that's who I would want if I were them. So yeah, and a similar thing happened last year, right? The Diamondbacks were actually in pretty good position to get the second wild card last year until they lost those 4 games and the Marlins wound up finishing a game ahead of them. Who knows what happens in 2023 if the D-backs start out going to Philadelphia for a 3-game series. I mean, they did lose the first 2 of the NLCS. Maybe that's how that series would have gone too, and the Diamondbacks would have been 2 games and out, and that's the end of it. So those kinds of little details can make a huge difference. But yeah, for right now, of course, you're focused on just trying to get in. You're focused on trying to win every game. You're not trying to get too cute with, we want to win enough to get this seed, but we don't want to win so much that we get that seed. That's certainly not the mindset here with 5 games to go.
That scamp Patrick Lyons is in our chat, and he says that middle screen has my interest peaked. Wonder if he has thoughts on the Phillies clinching tonight. Damon, you want to yell about Garrett Stubbs?
My thoughts mainly stem from, I'll see you there, Philly. I know you don't want to see us. I know you don't want to see us. That's a fact. So, yeah, Garrett Stubbs, be afraid, buddy. Be very afraid.
Well, Jesse, there were a lot of things about this game that kind of irked me as far as Torrey's managing. I just didn't feel like there was enough of a sense of urgency. There was also the decision to pinch hit Josh Bell for Jock Peterson there in the bottom of the 7th. Thoughts on that decision?
Yeah, that was something that in the moment I was somewhat questioning. In my head, you've got a lefty on the mound, so it certainly makes sense to make a move there. But you've got Josh Bell on the bench, you've got Ketel on the bench, you've got Lourdes on the bench. Gabby Moreno is on the bench, although I wouldn't imagine you'd want to pinch him in that spot. In my head, though, with both Grichuk and Gurriel as options to replace Pavin Smith later, it felt like a situation where you might want to use one of those guys. Both of them have considerably better numbers against lefties this season than Josh Bell does. However, Torrey did say in his post-game presser that part of the decision there was that the Giants had a right-hander warming. And so I think Torrey felt that if he had gone to a Grichuk or to a Gurriel in that spot, that Bob Melvin would have just countered and it would have been a right-on-right matchup. Obviously, Josh Bell is not really prone to that sort of thing, being a switch hitter who has pretty even splits. So in retrospect, I don't think that was a huge deal. There are little things here and there that maybe you could criticize. But the fact that Ketel Marte was not in the lineup was obviously a serious point of contention going into this one. To put it lightly, there was a full-on uproar on the Twitterverse, which surprised no one. Have you guys talked about, I know maybe the updates came through earlier. Have you guys discussed anything relating to what Ketel specifically said after the game?
No, we have not discussed that. And I was going to get injury updates from you, but yeah, I mean, what did Ketel have to say after the game in regards to not playing tonight?
Well, let's hear it from the man himself. Here is Ketel speaking on whether he was okay with sitting out tonight.
Que fue una buena idea. Sí, yo creo que el cuerpo te lo pide. Cuando el cuerpo te pide por lo menos un descanso, ¿sabes? Yo no soy de pedir día libre, pero cuando yo lo pido es porque lo necesito.
Yeah, when the body asks for it, I'm not someone who asks for a lot of days off, but when I do ask for it, it's because, I didn't need it.
So the implication there is that this off day for Ketel Marte was not Torey Lovello's idea.
The
implication is that Ketel asked for this day off, which, yeah, I think is probably hard to argue with, right? I mean, Ketel has been, from what Torey said today, Ketel has basically been playing hurt ever since he came back. He sort of acknowledged openly that Ketel came back before the ankle was 100%. It did feel like a pretty quick return for a high ankle sprain. If you do a Google search on how long it takes to come back from that, it's certainly longer than how long Ketel ultimately took. So the D-backs took an aggressive approach there. Ketel did say that there have been some effects of that. He said that he was a little bit concerned at first when he came off the IL about what it would be like playing with the ankle the way that it was. But yeah, from what Ketel said there, I am very much led to believe that this off day was his idea. And that Torrey just sort of went along with it. He doubled down on it after the game. He said that this was an off day that needed to happen. He didn't have any second thoughts about it. And that answer makes an especially lot of sense if it was Ketel himself that actually asked for it in the first place.
Yeah, that does make a lot of sense. And it's something we brought up earlier as to, our frustrations, the fans' frustrations about watching this team go out there and have guys that are sitting on the bench that are arguably their starting players. And no knock to guys like Kevin Newman, because this team was very good at one point with him as part of the starting lineup. So I don't think he's necessarily the problem. It's just the constant shifting and not letting guys kind of get in a rhythm, get some regular playing time here, especially with only 5 games left in the regular season. But did you have any other injury updates? What's going on with Gabby? Is Gabby okay, or do I need to freak out more about Gabby?
Yeah, Gabby was available off the bench today. Obviously, you saw Torrey pinch hit Lourdes for Jose Herrera. They're late, which of course would have meant that Gabby would come in and catch if the game had gotten to that point. So yeah, he was available. It sounds like Torrey almost used him as a pinch hitter as well at some point in this game. So it sounds like he could very well be in the lineup tomorrow. Don't know that for sure, but that seems totally possible. Some of the other guys, Ryan Nelson, it sounds like could return this weekend. He's first eligible to come off the IL on Friday, but it's a little bit unclear at this point whether he would return as a starter or a reliever. He is scheduled to throw a 25-pitch bullpen tomorrow, which of course is not a starter workload, but he hasn't been down all that long. So Torrey seemed to think that he could ramp it up higher than 25, certainly, but is that 45 pitches or is that 75 pitches? Torrey didn't say today. And it sounds like they're only going to have him start if he's able to give them some semblance of a starter's workload. If they decide that 35 pitches is best, they're going to move him to the bullpen and use him as a weapon that way. So, we'll see what the future holds there, but it does sound pretty realistic that Ryan Nelson could be back this weekend at some point.
They need something. They need something. I mean, Scott McGuff was pretty good today, but they need to figure something out, and they need a backup plan should things not work. Be calm, see clearly. Thank you for your super chat. You've been killing it with the super chats today. He says it's a legit fact that Fott in big games shoves, and he does, right. And they need him to do so tomorrow. That's probably
Absolutely.
one of the biggest regular season games of the year, and I know that might be a bit much because obviously the Diamondbacks aren't in a must-win situation yet, but they kind of are. They're kind of in a must-win where they just need to close the season out and like I said, get to 91 wins. That's the goal here at this point.
And that Padres-Dodgers series is also pretty important, I think, for the D-backs, just because if the Padres put up a fight there, I think they're 3 games out of the division, I believe, going into that series. So if they pull off a sweep, then the division is that they would be in first place and they would be very heavily motivated to try to win over the weekend. Whereas if the Dodgers go in there and take 2 out of 3, or especially if the Dodgers sweep that series, then suddenly, I mean, I guess if the Dodgers sweep, then the Padres are maybe fighting for their lives a little bit just to get in the postseason. So there's a lot.
We just want the Dodgers to clinch, just the Dodgers to clinch, but then the Padres to also just clinch. Yeah, I know this is all disgusting. Jesse did this. Jesse made us do this. I hate this.
Sorry,
right,
guys.
Damon?
Sorry, yeah. I almost threw up live on air. I'm really sorry about that.
Look like pretty sick there. We better wrap it up before Damon loses it. Jesse, you got anything else from Chase Field?
Yeah, I mean, I think that's about it. You know, Logan Webb on the mound for the Giants tomorrow. That's not exactly
no me gusta.
not exactly what
No me
you want to
gusta.
hear coming off
He owns
a
us.
tough one like this. Logan Webb does have really good career numbers against the D-backs. And I guess the one other thing I'll bring up is I did ask Tori if I did ask Tori if bouncing back from Sunday's game could maybe have been a factor, if just the effects of I mean, having a team score that many unanswered runs against you is really something. I guess the D-backs did score 1 run. They did make it 9-6, but they obviously lost the game anyway. So yeah, Torrey seemed to think that maybe that was a factor. The guys, you know, kind of struggling to get over that and move on. But that was sort of his message, was it, you know, if that is an issue for us, that's something that these guys need to figure out. So we'll see if they're able to do that here over these next 5 games.
Get your acts together, Diamondbacks. You don't have a lot of time left. This is it. This is 0 hour. Get it going. Well, we appreciate you guys for stopping by tonight. We thank you guys so much for venting with us. You can follow us all on Twitter. I am at Cap_Caveman with a K. Jesse is at Jesse N. Friedman. Damon is at Damon Dog. That's DAWG. And our producer, our guy KT, is at Kev Tom THOM Writes WRITES. I got it right that time, but only because I got the cheat sheet here in front of me on StreamYard. Of course, our show is at PHNX_D-backs. Appreciate if you follow us there. But of course, all roads do lead to at PHNX_sports on Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook. We thank you guys so much for your time. We appreciate you stopping by. We'll be back tomorrow with another post-game show, so make sure to join us then. And in the meantime, behave yourselves, have a good evening, and remember, kids, baseball is fun, but it's so much more fun when you have a sense of urgency.
We all silly like the mayor.